I'm Michael Hansen, the Executive Director of GASP. Two of my coworkers are here with me today, Kirsten Bryant and Haley Lewis. So I'm actually from Memphis. I've been in Birmingham for about 12 years now. After attending the University of Memphis and getting a degree in marketing, I decided that I was going to move to Nashville and look for jobs there in public affairs. That happened to be at the time that the Great Recession started, and so I had a hard time finding a job and decided I'm going to go to grad school. So I moved to Birmingham in 2008 and wound up going to the University of Alabama and getting my master's in public relations, where I focused my thesis on public health communications and the intersections of public policy and public relations. I started at GASP in 2013, which I've already said. So let's tell you a little bit about GASP. This iteration of GASP has been around for 10 years as of this year. We were founded in 2010, and our founders had met for about 5 years prior to that, trying to come up with an answer to Birmingham's long-standing air pollution problems. Our name at first was Alabama First, but then our founders found out about this group in the late 60s, early 70s, anchored at UAB, that organized to address the public health crisis that air pollution was causing in Birmingham. That group successfully lobbied the legislature to pass a Air Pollution Control Act and to enforce the Federal Clean Air Act in 1970, and we released a film in 2011 about that group called A Gas for Clean Air, hence the title of this presentation. So this is a picture of what air quality looked like back in 1970. It's pretty gross, right? So here's some facts about air pollution. It's the number one environmental health risk for premature death and disease globally. Contributes to over 5 million deaths worldwide every single year. Children, seniors, pregnant women, people with chronic illnesses like diabetes, asthma, and so on are the most at risk. Birmingham has a long history of air pollution because of its origin as a steel and iron city. And at the intersection of that were decades of racist policies such as redlining that led to black and brown people being discriminated against in environmental policy. So they bear a bigger brunt of the pollution. And so that's one of the things that we seek to address today. So the original GASP that was formed 50 years ago was actually responsible for forcing the federal government to use the emergency powers of the Clean Air Act for the very first time in Birmingham. They shut down 23 industries on a November day in 1971. So that's our where we get our name from. This is a news article about the film that we released about them. So starting at the top left, this is our team. Kirsten Bryant is our Deputy Director for Outreach. And then Nina Morgan is our Community Organizer for Environmental and Climate Justice. Haley Lewis is our Staff Attorney, and then that's me. So we've made a lot of progress since that picture I showed you of 1970 with all the soot covering the skyline, but we still have a long way to go. So here's our mission. GASP's mission is to advance healthy air and environmental justice through education, collaboration, and advocacy. And our vision is for a healthy, just, and sustainable Alabama for everyone who lives, works, learns, and worships here. I want to tell you a little bit about our values. Our number one value is that we believe that everyone deserves clean air to breathe, period, without question. Here are some of our other values. We believe that health should be a top priority for elected officials, for regulators, and for businesses in the industries that pollute. We believe that clean, renewable energy is essential to a healthy, just, and sustainable Alabama. All levels of government must be transparent and accountable to the people, not to corporations. Alabamians deserve the opportunity to live a healthy life no matter their race, their zip code, or socioeconomic status. and that speaks to what I was speaking of earlier. And elected officials and regulators have a moral duty to protect public health and act in Alabama's long-term best interest. So I mentioned in our mission statement that we try to do our work through education, advocacy, and collaboration. And that comes into play when thinking about our theory of change. We believe that these problems are so big and so long in our history that it takes an intersectional approach. So that's the collaboration. We believe we have to partner with other groups and other alliances to get our work done. We believe that an informed public is more likely to seek change, and we believe in strong and unrelenting advocacy for our values and goals. One final thing, this is something I picked up from my time in PR, is that interactions need to be two-way and mutually beneficial. So everything that we do is for the benefit of the communities we serve. And I will tell you about our work. First and foremost, we're an air quality organization. So we use all the legal and regulatory tools available to us to enhance existing air quality standards and laws. And we act as a watchdog as well to improve the enforcement of existing laws, permits, regulations, and so forth. We work to raise awareness of the health effects of exposure to pollution. And something we've been doing a lot of in the last several years is focusing on community science. So have you ever heard of citizen science? So empowering lay people to do science and research. This is an example of community science effort with one of our interns here named William and staff attorney. We did some air quality sampling last October in North Birmingham, and ABC 3340 just did a story about this last night. But it's a way to collect data and look at the health impacts of air pollution. We also work on climate change. This is something that I'm particularly passionate about. How we do that is we work to advocate for equitable and just access to clean, renewable energy. We don't think that should just be available to the wealthy. We are working to accelerate a just transition away from fossil fuels through legal and regulatory interventions. One example of this is you may have heard of our lawsuit at the PSC to overturn Alabama Power's solar fees. We collaborate with partners across the state and the Southeast and the nation for policy work. One thing that we're going to be doing later this year is releasing a podcast focusing on Green New Deal for the Southeast with our partners. And we also work to educate the general public about the threat of climate change in Alabama with a public health focus. And that's something that's really challenging, I'm sure you can imagine. This is actually the #1 polluting power plant in terms of greenhouse gas emissions in 2017 or 2015. Miller Steam Plant, about 15 miles northwest of here. So, did anyone actually know that that was the #1 greenhouse gas emitter was in the county? And finally, environmental justice. This consumes a lot of our time, and this is probably what you might know GASP from, is our work in North Birmingham in particular. We work to build strong relationship with community members. We work to provide technical assistance so that communities can self-organize and build power for themselves. And we try to ensure adequate public participation with government agencies, legislative bodies, executive departments, and so on. A good example of that, and I'm going to give you all a shout out here, is the health department's here. So Jason and Jonathan, Dr. Wilson, we like to pester these guys about comment periods and making sure that there's adequate notice and participation for the public. And thanks for being good sports about our pestering you. And we also do research and advocacy for policy solutions. This is a recent community listening session that we held in North Birmingham. And it's really, really important that we build relationships that are strong and grounded in community and loving one another. And then one final thing that I wanted to highlight is that we do storytelling. This is something that I think we do really well and that is really important for public health advocacy in particular, is because a lot of times the issues that you're dealing with in public health can't be seen. Sometimes they're invisible to the eye. And so one way to change that dynamic is to put a human face on the story and make it more urgent for the person that you're trying to communicate with. And we use videos, images, essays as tools for that end. And if you want to check out some of them, you can go to voicesforcleanair.com. This is another video. All right. So one of the things that I get asked about all the time is, what can I do? What are the most important things that I can do? And I could tell you about like ways to reduce your impact, like carpooling or turning off the air when you leave the house or turning down the thermostat or whatever. But that's really small scale stuff that does add up, but you all know that stuff, right? So here is my selfish point of view. I would like to ask you to do at least one of these 10 things if you are in support of clean and healthy air. The first thing is join as a member. So we've got donation forms online, but also I've got membership forms with me. I carry them everywhere I go. You can join for free if you catch us in the right day, or $3 or more every other day. As students and faculty, one of the things that you can do is sign up to volunteer. So we have all kinds of volunteer opportunities, internships, and ways for you to plug in and help us do the work, because we are a very small team. Invite us to speak to your club, especially if you're on campus and you've got like a science club, an environmental health club, your church. We love doing those things. We've got videos, we've got movies. We're happy to come and talk to any group, anywhere, anytime. We're nonpartisan, so we'll speak to anybody. Another way that is really effective, especially for people like you, because you're learning about this stuff and you're already engaged in the profession, is write an op-ed or a letter to the editor of the Birmingham News or your local paper back home about air pollution, about climate change, about environmental justice, about whatever issue you care about. Another thing, this doesn't apply if you live in a dorm, but if you got a house, host a house party. We'll come and join you and spread the gospel of clean air. And then another thing that you can do is report pollution if you see it. If it's urgent, I'm going to flag the health department again. They can tell you what number to call at the health department to report it. But you can also submit a form on our website to let us know in general cases. Something else you can do is, there may be something going on in your community that maybe is not air pollution, but you got questions. Just let us know, and we may not be able to help, but we can connect you through that collaboration to people who might be able to help. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever. And then finally, one of the most important things that you can do is talk to your friends and family about air pollution, environmental health, climate change in particular. We've seen there's plenty of evidence to show that talking about the issues actually does move the needle. So that's really important.